One of Jordan Peterson's 12 rules for life is to be precise in your speech. And going through those rules, and especially that one has always had a very important, significant impact on me and the things that I see. And why is that? Well, I think with a lack of precision in the way that we communicate, always leaves room for ambiguity and doubt and uncertainty, and it can have effects in multiple ways. So I want to dive into why, to me, one of the most important things is to be precise in your speech. All right. So, welcome to another episode of Candid Conversations, hosted by your Shruti Tekotraf, where we are engineered to win. So let's break down this from my perspective, why it is so important that we do our best to be very precise in our speech. Well, I've had conversations with thousands of people throughout my lifetime, hundreds of people through coaching and consultations, and just people that I meet, right? Whether it's within family, friends, relatives, clients, coworkers, bosses, whatever it might be, right? Wherever it might be, whatever it might be. And for me, I've learned over time the importance of precision when communicating because of a few reasons. The first reason that I would say is that with a lack of precision in your speech and the way you communicate with people, is that you really can you can really confuse people when you are trying. You know how a lot of people say, "Well, I was trying to say this," okay, but you didn't. And the fact that you didn't say what you really meant leaves so much room for people to try to figure it out, try to piece it together. And with with as busy as people are, especially depending on the context of the situation or the relationship, a lot of times people do not have the time or the care to try to piece together what it is you're trying to say. So it is so much more important that instead of you putting the onus on the other person to try to understand what you're trying to say, for you to just say what you're trying to say. And I think the there's different reasons that people might not be articulate in what they're trying to communicate. One of the reasons might be out of fear of maybe you're asking for something and you don't want to just outright and say what you're asking for. So when you are saying, okay, this is what I need, right? Although you're not saying what you need, you just so you end up describing what you need instead of just saying, okay, this is the what I actually need. So you're saying, okay, I need this, I need that, I need that, and now you're drawing out the whole conversation, and the person that you're talking to, they're still not exactly sure. So they're like, okay, you need like these five things. Are you able to just like give me a concise list? Because at the end of the day, people have things to do. But the fear of I think a lot of times the fear of rejection leads us to have imprecise speech so that we could like so now you can get the person to commit and say, okay, I'll do it, but you never actually said what you want the person to do. So then they end up making that commitment, and now you're just expecting everything, and while they're expecting to do what in their eyes it's the minimum of what you asked for, but in your eyes it's everything because there was a lot of like you out of fear. I'm not gonna say it's purposely, but out of fear, you might have not said you might have not given all the details. So I think that plays a big factor into why we communicate the way that we do sometimes. Uh, another reason that it is important so that you can have more concise speech is that you will turn people off by just rambling on and on and on. And this can manifest in multiple contexts. But something like when I'm communicating with people and I ask a question, which it is a direct, maybe a yes or no question, or the answer requires a number, like a very direct answer, and then they start to go down a long list of reasons or why and stuff like that. And now I'm like waiting and waiting and waiting. And sometimes the worst part that can happen is that you might be listening to a 5 minute answer and then you never actually get to the answer to your question. And so it's like a long drawn out explanation, but the question that you actually asked, there is no answer to it. So I always say, do me a favor. And sometimes I'll even have to cut people off when they're answering, like after maybe about 30 seconds where I still don't hear an answer. And now the onus is going to become on me to try to figure out what the actual answer is. But I'm getting so much explanation. I'm getting lost in the explanation. So I'll say, all right, let's stop for a second here. This is the question that I'm asking you. I need you to answer this question first. And then if I need the explanation, that if I need the context, then we can go into that. But for you to give me this long drawn out explanation without the actual, like, I need to know your position before I know your reasoning for the position. A lot of people will start off with the reasoning, maybe because they're uncertain about their position or what they're saying. But I need for you to give me what stance you're taking, and then let me listen to you out to hear, so that I can understand why you took that position. Um, so I think that's another reason that we need to be able to articulate and communicate effectively, because it goes back to the whole ambiguity part and not really understanding the position that somebody's coming from. Now, another reason that I think that people will, not that they, and this is not deliberate, right? There is deliberate reasons why people will not be precise in their speech, and I'll cover maybe one of those at the end. But also, a lack of confidence in what you're talking about will lead to having imprecise speech. So, and this what leads to a lot of rambling in your talk. And I'll tell you this: for someone who values their time a lot and who communicates, interviews a lot of people, I can always tell when someone is not confident in what they're talking about, because it gets really hard for them to land the point. I also I also think the way that we were taught to answer questions when we were in school, when they say, well, the right way to answer a question is to repeat the question, in the answer. So, for a lack of a better example, if you ask, what is your name, right? And you respond, my name is Ralph. Now, that's a very short question. And the answer to that question, it makes perfect sense to say, my name is Ralph. But a lot of times when you have a question that requires further explanation, deep thought, and when we start to answer the question, we add in all these filler words. A lot of times, just to think about what we're about, the answer that we're going to get to. But you'll repeat the a good portion of the question before you get to your answer. And in conversation, in communication, it's to me it's unnecessary, because the person knows the question that they just asked you. So why are we repeating exactly what was just said to us? And that's when a lot of rambling starts to happen. I'll say this definitely: when you are in an interview for a position or something like that, you need to make sure you focus in on how you are articulating yourself, because if you are, every single time that you're asked a question, you're repeating the question in your answer, it will get tiring and frustrating, and based on what the conversation is about, you might miss out. And I would say whatever type of conversation it's whatever, if it's like a personal conversation, if it's a business conversation, if like when I'm inside of these corporate meetings, I'm always listening to the question, and I don't I don't repeat what someone said in their question, unless I'm trying to use it to reference to what's like, oh, this person said A, B, and C, or you said A, B, and C. Well, my position on that is, and then I go into my answer. But a lot of times I will just jump in and contribute to the conversation that's being had. The way that we were taught, like, so a lot of times we end up trying to communicate verbally the way that we would write. So I perfectly understand when you are responding to something, you might give like, okay, the details of the question in your response. Maybe you're writing an essay or something like that. But when you are communicating with people in a group atmosphere, one on one, and you repeat what they said, you're buying time and you're adding filler words, and it can be quite frustrating. If you are confident in your answer, you will be able to just jump to the answer and start breaking it down, stating your position, and keeping the conversation going. For me, like when I'm communicating with people, and it's not, I have to listen to pretty much what I just asked you, and you're saying it back. I'm like, all right, let me. You're putting more work on my end to filter out all of that, and like I said, this all of this precision talk, it breaks down in any type of conversation. It's applicable to any type of conversation, any type of relationship. And it is so important that we work towards being able to better communicate. Communication is key. It's honestly, communication is like 99% of everything, right? And the way that I'm going to end it is with this, because uh, I think all of this is kind of self-explanatory. Executing it, that's tough. That's one of the reasons, like especially when it comes to interviews, where I think a lot of people do not like interviews because they lack the ability to communicate, and they don't practice their communication skills. It can be hard. Like I'll tell you this one. Like when I was growing up, I hated public speaking, and I still hate it to this day. One of the classes that I took last in college, because I really didn't want to, was it called speech or public speaking? I think it was called speech, right? Where you had to go and make a presentation in front of the class, and I know that they'll give you 3 minutes, and I would just zoom through it because I really didn't want to be there. When you're nervous, you go faster, and you know now, although I still don't like public speaking, I am able to manage it. You know, I I'm here just about every day, videos, live streams, organization, and slowing down your mind is going to help you to articulate better, to be more precise in your speech, and people will understand what you're saying a lot better. I think that we don't practice this enough, and we need to be able to practice communicating. And what I was going to say earlier is, especially when it comes to interviews and stuff like that, that's one of the reasons that I do, like when I'm training somebody and they have interviews coming up, we will go back to back to back days doing these mock interviews, because look, when it comes to when it comes to interviews, you a lot of times you have one chance, one shot to leave an expression. And and in these interviews, people who are interviewing you, they're looking for so many different criterias. Do you have the technical knowledge? Do you have Are you a good cultural fit? Are you able to communicate and articulate yourself properly? Are you confident in what you're talking about? Because like companies, your manager and stuff like, they don't want other people to walk all over you, and all of those things play a factor. And you're being analyzed and judged on all those things. So that's why it is so important that you practice your communication skills. You have like you put yourself in conversations. You listen to yourself communicate as well. I'll wrap up with this example. I was doing a mock interview the other day, and what I do when I do mock interviews, I record them so that the person who is being interviewed, they can go back and listen to it. Well, in a few of the interviews, and a lot of the interviews that I've done, my mock interviews where I record them, I always send it to the person. I say, all right, go back and listen to this. And they're like, oh, I really don't want to. It was so bad. I'm like, that's why you have to go back and watch it. And you can see your facial expressions, the way that you communicated when you started looking around, when you hesitated, because you need to look at your practice tape and take notes and make improvements and catch yourself, because that like that is what you're presenting to the world. And if you look like you're unsure, you're uncertain, you look like, or you start rambling on something that you don't know, but the person who's communicating with you, they can tell, they can sense it on you, and then it just goes downhill from there. So it is so important that we practice, and we strengthen our ourselves, our confidence, our articulation skills, to be effective communicators. Because, like I said, everything you do in life, it's going to be about communication. You can write the best application, the best code, and stuff like that, but if you can't communicate what it does, you know, back in the days in the tech field, it would be, oh, tech is for those introverts who don't like to talk to anybody. Just put them in a corner and let them do this and that. With agile coming out, everybody has to communicate. Developers and quality people have to communicate, and vice versa. They have to talk to the product people, to the project people. They need to do presentations. They need to do diagrams, and being able to communicate and is a big part of making your case and selling it. So that's why it is so important that we learn how to be more precise in our speech. Now, to end it, I'm gonna throw this out. I think that the lack of precision in the way that we communicate, it leads gaps for and it I'm not going to say it's for nefarious reasons, but it can be. And what do I mean by that? So, as I was saying earlier, how the way that people communicate, like they might not want to share all the details because they're fear of the pushback that they might get. Well, here's the deal, and this can be on both ends. You might communicate very vaguely so that you can leave confusion and doubt on the other side, so that you can hope that the other person tries to pick up on what you're saying, and you meet that way, when so you're really don't know what you're trying to say, or you know what you're trying to say, but you're saying it in a way that causes uncertainty so that you can just get agreement. But it's not real agreement if the person doesn't really understand what you're talking about. And you might feel like, if I was to clearly articulate my point, then they might not agree. So it's possible that the person that you're communicating to doesn't agree with you, but the way that you explained it, it leaves that room for doubt. I think this part is even more important. With the lack of precision in the way that you communicate, with your inability to articulate, there are people out there who, although they might know and understand what you're trying to say, they will purposely not accept it, not allow it, use it to manipulate what you're trying to say so that they can be combative and they can take what they want out of your conversation. I think that people are a lot smarter when communicating Not in a lot of other aspects, but when communicating, people are a lot smarter based on context clues and understanding. However, they will not. People are very, very competitive. They can be petty. So when you are not precise in what you're trying to communicate, they a lot of times might go to the extreme to combat. And it might be a debate tactic. I think it's a poor debate tactic, but it's on you though. It's on you to be very, very clear in what you're trying to say. And instead of just trying to say something, just say what you mean what you say. And from there, you can leave no room for doubt, no room for confusion, because the moment like just depending on the type of conversation that you're having, if it's a debate, then they're going to claw at everything that you said in order to win. If it's an argument, then a lot of times people go to take the extremes in order so that they can prove you wrong, because a lot of times it's more about winning than it is about having some type of understanding and consensus. So I say that your job is to be as clear as possible in what you're saying, regardless of the situation, so that the questions that you get are very, very directly related to what you are saying, and you take out all the room for confusion, doubt, ambiguity, and that way you can be successful in your communication. All right. Anyways, that is it for today. Thank you guys so much for tuning into another episode of Candid Conversations, hosted by your truly Tech Coach Ralph, where we are engineered to precisely win. All right. Do me a favor on your way out. If you haven't done this already, like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know every time we go live and drop new content. As well, go to techcoachralph.dev, sign up for exclusive content. I'm going to be releasing a lot of content. I had over the weekend a amazing conversation about federal employment, how to get into the database, the length that it takes, the type of jobs, all this type of stuff that I had no idea about. But we had Magnetar who was taking us through it, and I'm going to be making that available on the Tech Coach Ralph Patreon at techcoachralph.dev. So sign up today and get access to exclusive content. But that's it for today. Hopefully you found this helpful and informative. Tech Coach Ralph with another episode of Candid Conversations. We are out.
Got a wall around my feelings, built strong like a fortress. Lost inside a maze, emotions in deep storage. Careful when I step, trust is fragile and thin. Words they cut so easily, then they're gone like the wind.
People play the game, say they'll be there and vanish. Promises like shadows in the daylight, they vanish. Guarded heart, I move in silence, whispers in the dark. Can't let them see me slipping, gotta always stay on guard. Guarded heart, I got emotions that they'll never see. Protective armor on this soul that's always watching me. Trust is delicate, a thread I'm holding close and tight. Living in the shadows, always careful with mine. Secrets in my eyes, mysteries behind my gaze. People think they know me, but they're lost within the haze. Invisible scars from the lies and broken phrases. Walking through fire, I emerge from the blaze. Truth and lies, they mingle, dancing like it's fate. So I guard my soul and never second guess my gate. Trust is rare and precious, like a diamond in the rough. In a world of masks and mirrors, gotta stay tough. Got it hard, I got emotions that they'll never see. Protective armor on this soul that's always watching me. Trust is delicate, a thread I'm holding close and tight. Living in the shadows, always careful.